Do you have a question? Then call in and ask your neighbor. 865-457-1380 or toll free at 877-711-4005. And for those of you that might be listening or watching on the internet, you can email from our website, WYSHradio.com. Just click on the Contact Us button and email your questions. Now sit back and listen as listeners throughout East Tennessee and the entire world answer your questions on Ask Your Neighbor on BBB TV 12 and AM 1380 WYSH.
Good morning, everybody. Here we are. Good morning. There we go. I got my buttons pushed. Welcome into Ask Your Neighbor this morning. As I told you here just a little while ago, as we were talking on Trading Time, Joey Smith's with us this morning. Hey, Joey, how are you, buddy?
Morning, Ron. I'm good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, boy. Is there such a thing, really? I don't know. I guess there is. To some people, happy Mondays. But Jerry Shattuck was up here a few months ago, and we were talking, and he was like, I get Joey to come up. You know, Jerry was talking about the county, and he was impressed with your historical knowledge of the city of Clinton. And
I bow at Jerry's feet. You know, he's the
man.
original historian. So some folks have said I'm a historian. I'm like, Jerry is a legitimate historian. I said, I just love it. I think it's interesting, so I've collected a little bit of knowledge here.
What piqued your curiosity about it? And or do you specifically just look at our city, or is it just a whole?
That's sort of what it turned into.
Okay.
I just was a history buff anyway. Just liked things from the past were just always so interesting.
Yeah.
But when I moved back here from Nashville, it's been almost 20 years ago now, but got into different, community events and things and working with the schools, and just, questions would come up. Why is this the way it is? Why is this building here? Why does this street have this funny name? So I'm going to find out, dig into this a little bit, and it just sort of snowballed. And I work, with the downtown nonprofit quite a bit. So I sort of focused in on the city of Clinton, like just the core of the city and the history of how it grew up and what happened all the 220 something years ago.
Well, where do you want to start? Because I don't know how much we've got, and like I said, when I was messaging you, we can do this a number of times just at your convenience. I know people, they really enjoy this.
You start talking about it, and people, something piques their interest.
Sure.
And since I work in real estate, I have a lot of folks say, "Do you know anything about my house? Who lived in my house, or who built my house, or what's the story about my house?" And folks say that to me, and I'm like, hey, I'm on it. That's I'll find out. That's
cool.
Fun to find out about who, your house is your home. It's
sure.
A lot of memories and things that go on in it, and to know who was there before you is really, people appreciate that, I think.
Absolutely. I'm sure that they do. What, Clinton was originally Burrville, right?
Yep.
And when was Burrville founded?
Yeah, I had that question several years ago because people would get confused. They would see one sign in Clinton that said established in 1809, and then there would be one other that said 1890, and one that said 1800. I said, okay, there's three dates you need to, Burrville, the county seat, really the birth of Clinton was 1801.
Okay.
And Aaron Burr was Thomas Jefferson's vice president.
Yes, sir.
Of course, everybody's watched the Hamilton musical now, so they know the whole story. That duel was kind of disgraceful, and Burr fell out of favor, and the people in Burrville said, we don't want our town named after this guy.
Yeah.
So in 1809, they petitioned to rename it Clinton. All the things I've read said that's probably after Thomas Jefferson's second vice president, who was George Clinton. So,
oh wow, I didn't know that.
The town was really hung up on whoever Thomas Jefferson had at number 2.
I guess so. Yeah. They could have called it Jefferson.
So 1809 was that date.
Yes,
and
sir.
then flash forward to the 1890, and the city wanted to, the citizens wanted to incorporate.
Okay.
And took a vote to do that in 1890, and it passed. So Clinton became a legitimate incorporated city in 1890. So those are your 3 dates.
There you go.
You pick which one you like.
I didn't know any of that. I think I knew the incorporation date, but I didn't know.
Yeah, and that's a fun story too about the incorporation, about why they wanted to do that.
Why did
it? It had failed a couple of times in the past, but
How many people were here then? Do you know?
A couple hundred.
Okay. All right.
Not very many.
So,
but actually, when we incorporated in the 1880s, the population, I think they measured it in 10-year increments. It had increased by like 350 something percent.
Oh wow.
Between like 1880 and 1890, which was probably due to the coal industry in Lake City, Coal Creek, was really ramped up, and we had the train station here.
Sure.
So we were a travel
business hub.
Yeah, business hub.
Okay.
So things really started to change. Clinton went from a frontier town, a frontier village, after the Civil War to the 1880s and 1890s. It became a hot little commercial district. Tons of people moving here. The population exploded.
And that's when the city fathers or whomever wanted to incorporate.
Had a couple of goals from and I got a lot of this information out of the old newspapers that are at the Clinton Library. They're still on microfilm, which is a really kind of antiquated way to have to look something up. It takes a long time, but find some good stuff when you do that. But they wanted to kind of clean up the city a little bit. As you can imagine, it was actually a little bit rowdy.
Oh, really?
Market Street and around the depot, we think of it now as a quiet little tourist destination, but it was wild.
Really?
Saloons and shootings and all kinds of crazy stuff. So they kind of wanted to get things in order. They wanted to do that, and they wanted to have
Where was the saloon?
I don't know.
You don't know which building or
I'm not sure which buildings.
That's cool. I didn't know.
And they wanted a school district.
Yes.
That was one of the things that the city folks wanted when they incorporated. So it took 5 more years to get the city school system established, but those were two of the big reasons they wanted to incorporate.
Really? To bring a little bit of law.
Tame the saloons and open some schools.
Go hand in hand together. That's cool. What's the most interesting thing about our town, community, city of Clinton that you've stumbled upon that just piqued your interest?
There's some good stuff. I recently found, I think I'll backtrack.
Okay. Yeah.
There's some really interesting stories about, and they reported everything in the, we think about social media now, everybody's business is out there. Everywhere. They did it back then too.
Sure, it just came out once or twice a week. Yeah,
on a
printed
piece of paper.
Yeah.
But some of the interesting stories about, there's actually a really terrible murder on Market Street, and I'll save that for maybe we could talk closer to Halloween about that one.
Wow, that's cool.
But I think the thing that I've found to be most interesting was even 200 years ago up until now, you see the same kind of spirit in the people of Clinton, and that was they loved where they lived, and they loved their neighbors, and they worked really, really hard to protect it. And I think if you looked at folks that live here today, you would see that was sort of the prevailing spirit of people that lived here. They really love living here.
Yeah.
I met somebody from Chicago that had moved down here a while ago, and I said, well, what do you think of Clinton? And he's like, this is an interesting little town. He said, it's really very interesting about how much people love it. I said, you don't love Chicago? And he was like, eh. He said, people really love this town.
Well, that's cool.
And it was that way 200-something years ago, too.
Well, I know that, I know that our council, Mayor Burton, and prior councils and mayors have worked to preserve what we have, and then all of the work that's went into Market Street and getting ready to go into Market Street to not only preserve it, but, really highlight it. Pretty cool. I know a lot of people have worked hard to keep this quaint town quaint.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it's not a new thing.
That's cool.
It's just things happen in different ways throughout history. People will say history will repeat itself if you're not careful, and I think it repeats itself anyway. And you see it.
Was it you that mentioned turtle pond or?
The turtles, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned you got to clean your son's turtle tank today.
I was talking. Yeah, so we're going to do that this evening. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, stumbled upon that. Reading some old papers and even talking to some folks that still live around, that still live here. Mm-hmm. They said, the area around South Main Street, where the Walgreens and the Rusty Wallace lots are. They said we always called that Terrapin Hill growing up. And I said, oh, really? Wonder why? Well, we had a really great county historian, Catherine Hoskins, many years ago.
Yes.
And I think she is the godmother of history around here. She really put a lot into her research and into a book it's not really in print anymore, but you can find it at the library, and occasionally you'll find a copy for sale somewhere of historical sketches. But she had included some information in there about Terrapin Hill, that area around behind Clinton Library and towards Walgreens.
Okay.
I found old articles in these old papers. There was even a Terrapin Hill baseball team that played.
Really?
I read about a fantastic game between the North Clinton team and the Terrapin Hill team. So it was something that people referred to quite a bit.
Well, how did it get its name?
Well, ask any Clinton middle school kid, and they'll tell you there's the spring or the creek that runs in front of the library.
Sure.
There used to be a bridge over it that they could hop off of, but that spring, it begins over by the football field. It's gated now, and
that's where I thought the Terrapin Hill, right there by the football field.
Yeah, that's the same spring. It just runs underground for a bit and pops back out around the library. But prior to Norris Dam, the Clinch River would flood quite a bit.
Yeah.
Flooded control was a big reason to build the dam besides power. But the story that Catherine Hoskins wrote about was, when the waters would back up there in front of the library, which wasn't there at the time, it flooded pretty, fairly high. And there's some old pictures that I've seen floated around of people taking a boat around the courthouse.
Oh, wow, really?
But the waters would recede, and apparently this little hill there would be hundreds of turtles stranded on the rocks after the water receded. So locals just started to call that little area Terrapin Hill, and
that's cool.
It stuck for a long, long time, but that fell out of favor. Nobody called it that I remember.
Yeah,
but that's one of the reasons that we started to tell that story. It's just an interesting little story, local history. It's not very important, really, but it was something that was forgotten over time. It's just interesting to know about.
It is interesting
about what had happened.
You mentioned the train station.
Yeah.
Do you have any historical information about that?
Yeah, some of it I came on by accident.
Oh, really?
A lot of folks wanted to know how old Market Street was, and I said, I have no idea. Tim Shelton at the Register of Deeds office is a great resource. I like to go. I tell people this, and they're like, your life sounds really exciting. I love to go to the Register of Deeds. Love to go to the library, because you can't Google this local stuff.
Yeah,
you got to go find it. But there's a plat map of Market Street and the train depot from 1869, just right after the Civil War had ended, which apparently had really decimated Clinton. It was just in shambles. Because we were kind of a main traffic route for either army.
Really?
Not a lot, nothing happened here like a battle, but the area was in pretty rough shape afterwards. But the train tracks were finished, and the train depot was probably built around 1869, and that's when they platted out that Market Street.
Really?
So at least since then, that's how old, I finally found out, thanks to that map at the registrar's office, that's how old Market Street is, and that's when the depot would have first been built. And I think we've had maybe 3 depots. I think this is probably the 3rd one that we have now. And it's about 120 years old now.
I know back years ago, about 2009, the city, when I was mayor, they made an effort to try and obtain that depot.
Yeah.
They wanted to do something with it, and the train company had no interest in parting with it at the time. I don't remember.
Yeah, and even today, as I understand it, the train company uses it. I mean, they've got offices.
The storage and stuff, I think.
Yeah, there are folks there I think about every day.
Really? That's cool.
We've talked to them and asked them about some stuff. We had some kids from Clinton Elementary plant some flowers out in front of the train depot just as a community project.
Cool.
And I've noticed since then that the train depot folks keep it up for us. So,
do you know why they picked Clinton for their depot as opposed to or did they have one ever so many towns, or how does that work?
Yeah,
Do you know?
I haven't delved into that very deeply, but there were probably more train stations around back then than there are now.
True.
That was your main way to get from anywhere if you didn't want to take a horse or a wagon.
True.
So you could, folks could ride the train from Clinton to Oliver Springs.
That's cool.
I really don't. I think there were maybe 2 lines that crossed near Clinton. Southern, I think the companies have changed over time, but I think way back when it started, it was like the Kentucky and Ohio line was what came through here.
That's interesting. When Jerry was here, he talked about something that I never knew, that Green McAdoo was a person, a real,
Yes.
What, isn't that? I mean, do you know about?
I know a little bit about him, and I think I found out a little bit more because registrar's office, library, and the third place I like to go hang out are cemeteries.
Oh.
But not far from here, from the radio station, there's a tiny little cemetery at the corner of Cagle and Baker Streets.
Really?
Little tiny cemetery. If you grew up in North Clinton or went around there ever, you would recognize it. It's a tiny little cemetery with a stone wall around it. But there's no grave marker for Green McAdoo, but that's where he is buried. Per some, his obituary that I found, and some records online, that's where he is. His body was laid to rest. But he was, history's too, you can't make stuff up. It's just
amazing.
His father was an enslaved individual to the McAdoo family. So that's where he got his last name, the
slave owners.
Slave owners often their name, they shared their names with them. So Green was free, but his father was enslaved to the McAdoo family, and that's where he's buried, oddly enough, in the McAdoo family cemetery.
That's cool.
Yeah. But he was a Buffalo soldier. I don't have a lot of information on what all that was, but he was U.S. Army.
Wow.
And they just finished a mural about him up at Green McAdoo. I've not seen it finished, but
cool.
A little bit more info about him there. He was a janitor, I think, at the courthouse, and his obituary said he was a beloved figure in Clinton history.
That's cool. Well, Jerry talked about too, I guess, in his family, they rose to prominence in politics, and I mean, or I can't remember what position Jerry said that they held.
The McAdoo family.
Yeah, the McAdoo family.
Oh yeah, and again, didn't know any of this till you start to dig, but. I don't know the extent of their farm, and there were several generations of McAdoos here in Anderson County. That was a name you heard, a street growing up. You're like, what a weird name for a street.
Exactly. Well, I had absolutely no idea that there was a family, attached to it.
They had a large farm right around North Clinton. I don't know if it might have extended all the way out here where the station is, but it was definitely centered around that little cemetery. And a great swath of land around North Clinton towards Market Street that the family bought in 1802. I found the deed, and they sold it in the 1880s to the Underwood family. Underwoods are still around.
Yeah,
the Underwoods bought up a big part of the McAdoo farm. But those are probably the 2 oldest graves in that little cemetery, are John and Mary Ann McAdoo, who are the mother and father of that family.
Wow. Extremely interesting. Yeah. What else, in your investigations or study, whatever, what has jumped out at you that you just was like taken aback by, things you think people will find interesting or that you found extremely interesting about the city? Yeah,
a lot of things.
We've got as much time as you'll give me.
Just all kinds of stuff. Since I'm on the city school board, the school history really kind of struck me as very interesting.
Okay.
And that started a lot. People would be like, "Why is there a middle school and the elementary are right beside each other, but one's city, one's county?" And I said, "I don't know."
Good question.
I started to read about it, but Civil War times. That's when the state legislature, probably after the war was over, they passed the compulsory school law, attendance law. It became law that you had to go to school. So in Anderson County, like I said, after the Civil War, it's pretty rough frontier area. It was still like a frontier town, frontier county. So a lot of one-room schoolhouses, a lot of little log cabins and church schools and things like that. An academy opened actually near Terrapin Hill that was burned in the Civil War, but it opened, nobody really knows, 1820s maybe.
Wow.
They called it the Academy, and then they moved, after the Civil War, they moved it and rebuilt it near, or on the site where Clinton Elementary is right now.
Really?
Still called it the Academy, but they also called it Clinton High School in the 1880s.
Really?
You know, you look at the Clinton High School sign, it says established 1903.
Yeah.
It was actually quite a bit before that, but then when the city incorporated, the city schools were established, they really took over the academy, and they operated the academy, and that was every kid, every grade, like first through 11th or 12th or however long it went back then, all in the same spot. Obviously, got really, really crowded because Clinton became known as a place to go if you wanted to get an education.
Really?
People would come and live in there were boarding houses all over town. These kids would live in these boarding houses during the week so they could go to school.
Really?
They'd go back home out into Dutch Valley or farther out to work on the farm on the weekends. And I actually have a friend who, her aunt was one of those kids. Rode in, probably on a wagon, down to school in Clinton.
Who was responsible for the children while they were here in the boarding houses?
I don't know, I guess the boarding house mom or whoever ran it. It was a different time, you know.
Yeah, I guess obviously a very different time.
But the school, the school got really crowded. So in the 1920s, the county school system said, "Well, we'll build a new high school, and we'll take over operating that. And the city you can run first grade through 8th grade." So the city and the county worked together on that. The city and the county actually both paid for the new Clinton High School, which we know today is middle. It's the middle school building. And then, the integration story, I'm sure Jerry talked about quite a bit. And then the current Clinton High, built in the 60s, that's when the middle school concept came around. And the county said, we'll do the middle school grades here in this building. And the city said, okay, we're going to focus on elementary.
Is the Clinton Middle School building the actual building that is that part of the original?
Yeah, at least parts of it.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty wrecked after the bombing.
Yeah,
but if folks drive down Marshall Street, the street behind, you can find one section of the building. It's the library.
That's original.
Take a look at the brickwork on that part of the building. You'll notice that it is quite a bit different and really reflected that 1920s architecture from when they first built it.
That's cool.
You don't notice that stuff till you're like, okay, I get that makes sense.
I'm making notes so that I can
just notice that next time you drive back behind me.
All three of my boys went there. I never saw it, never paid attention to it.
Definitely the same footprint.
Yeah.
They probably had to knock a lot of those walls down and come back up with a new modern 1960s structure, but that little corner in the back is
cool.
Still untouched.
Going from Clinton to Norris for just a moment, but I didn't realize that Norris, what is now, I guess, Norris Middle, was the first school to have electricity
It was at least the first all-electric building. Like the entire building was electrified, or had electricity, which I guess was unusual at the time.
The president, the first lady, I think, opened the school. I don't know, it was just the history was, I was blown away by it.
You could pick any era, and Clinton and the county have had some really incredibly great stories happen.
I was talking to somebody about the school, and didn't they box in the library? They did construction, and there's like an actual room in Norris Middle School that is completely boxed in. That used to be, I can't remember if it was a janitor's closet, janitor's area, or if it was a library, that somehow the architecture, when they updated and redid this school, they just boxed it all in. They say there's still, inside of it is still some of like the original desks and shelving and stuff like that from way back when they first built it.
I haven't heard that story, but there's nothing better than a sealed off secret room.
Well, there's one supposedly at Norris.
That's where you find some really good pretty good
I
stuff.
can't remember, for the life of me, I can't remember who shared that with me, but or maybe I just made it up. Maybe I just dreamed it. I don't know. But
Well, I
somebody told me
always
that.
ask about basements and attics in
Mhm.
any building, any of the schools, or any businesses and old stuff. I said that's where you really find some good stuff. And Kelly Johnson at the elementary school has let me check out some old file room. They have they called it the records room, but it's nobody goes in there very often. But you pull some drawers out and pull out some school records, and you just start flipping, and you see names you recognize,
Really?
like Lou Allen and Medeiros, and this is when they were actually in school.
Wow.
I can tell you when they, how many days they missed. They went on to be judges and stuff.
Yeah, and have roads and bridges named
Bridges and
after them.
roads and
That's very interesting. Speaking of Lou Allen, let's talk a little bit about that, the bridge and how and why it was named.
And their house, the Lou Allen house is still here. I love it when these old places have been really well preserved and cared for.
Yeah.
Because when you lose those, you never get them back.
Mm-hmm.
And they take some work, to preserve the old
absolutely.
places. Even though they were probably built 100
Well
times
built.
better than anything we could build now. But the Lou Allen house is, I think, at 501 North Main, not
Okay.
far from here. Dr. Butch Oakes has his dental practice in that building. But Everett Lou Allen, who was a mayor of Clinton several times, I've told Mayor Burton he finally surpassed Mayor Lou Allen as the longest serving mayor. Until Scott came along, it was Mayor Lou Allen had been mayor most number of years.
How long did Mayor Lou Allen serve?
He had probably 3 terms, and I think that maybe back then they served 2 or 3 year terms.
Wow.
Some were consecutive, and some were he came off and came back on. But his father actually built the house in 1883, from what I understand, and was one of the first houses to have running water.
Wow.
Supplied by the spring here that runs by the radio station.
Cool. Spring Street.
Spring Street, yep. Aptly named.
See, I didn't put that together till you just said that. I was like, oh, that's why it's Spring Street.
Yeah. So let me make sure I get his name right. It was, I think Sam Lou Allen and he was one of the Lou Allen Miller department store founders.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure. And there are folks still alive that remember shopping there.
Really?
At Lou Allen Miller. It was open for a really long time. But Everett was his son, who was mayor of Clinton, and the Green Bridge.
Yeah.
And even the brand new Green Bridge is still named after him. But he was an interesting character.
When did the folks of Clinton or whomever make the decision to name that bridge after him? Do you know?
I've got the info in a folder somewhere.
I got you.
It's he was still alive because
cool.
I found a picture of him standing there with the sign that said this was the Everett Lou Allen Bridge, and he was, it was later in his life.
That's cool.
But he was mayor during the integration story.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if Jerry talked about him, or
Right.
his role in that, but he said, we will have law and order in the town. And it was, I can't remember where I heard these stories, if somebody told me verbally or if I actually read it written down, but I believe Mayor Lou Allen might have had a machine gun parked in his window at his house just in case he needed it. So,
Well, there you go.
forgive me if
Law and order.
I don't have a sourced site for that.
That's
but
all right. Very interesting. And the city, we have a very storied history, don't we? When you look back.
For a little town in Tennessee,
Yeah.
there's been a really huge number of internationally important things happen either right here on either side of us that we played a big part in.
Talk a little bit about those things. Some of the internet, some of the things that we've done that have had such, repercussions across the country. I know integration was huge, and I don't think Clinton has ever got the national or historic, national media or such. They've never really told the story. I know it's on. We have it on PBS and stuff, and it has been for a number of years. But Clinton played a huge part in that.
It did, and just like everything else, I think that I have found that's been just astounding. you can't really Google this stuff in this day and age when information's so easily accessible. A lot of these stories that are about our community are, it's not necessarily out there for the world to see.
Sure.
And the world can't come to the Clinton Register of Deeds office or the library to get this stuff. But, the Depression hit the whole country pretty hard. Clinton fared a whole lot better than most communities.
Because of Magnet Mills?
Magnet Mills, and those folks that ran that place. But the Roosevelt's New Deal that's something most people know about, and they know that Tennessee Valley Authority was established. But Norris, being the first dam, had a huge impact on the area,
southeast,
electricity and power, and
I didn't realize of the dams that they set out, Norris was the first. What, 1921? Give or take?
33 or
Is it?
36. I really can't.
Okay.
Can't keep those dates straight.
I can't.
Sorry, Norris.
I was
spent
I was a decade or plus off. So,
that was the 30s.
uh-huh.
The 40s, of course, was World War II.
Yeah.
And the Manhattan Project, when they first built it and opened it, it was called Clinton Engineering Works.
Really?
Clinton, yeah.
The Manhattan Project, when they
built the actual buildings.
When they start,
yeah.
It was called Clinton Manufacturing.
Clinton Engineering Works, and I've even found some old postcards.
Wow.
With like the K-25 building on it from then, and it's been labeled.
Did the government do that intentionally, just so it wouldn't?
I guess.
Clinton Engineering.
There's a lot of secrecy back then.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know that Clinton Engineering Works would have triggered anybody's suspicions of what might have been going on.
Lester Fox told a story did you ever get to sit down and talk to Lester much? Oh, I loved Lester Fox. He came up and told a story on the air that when they decided to build the Manhattan Project, people had been relocated from Norris. Many of them had went down to Oak Ridge. And he and his friend had skipped school that day. And there was one phone in town. I want to say Oliver Springs. I can't remember where he told me he went to school. But there's one phone in town. It was at the drugstore. And I don't know who made the call, but the call was made to the drugstore to get the principal of the school, and they were to send messages with the students home that the government was coming to take their property. And that's how and Lester, the call came in, Lester was in the store getting candy. He was supposed to have been in school. And so they sent Lester to go get the principal. And he came, and they gave him the information that he needed to disseminate to the kids, and kids could go home and tell their parents. And it was basically, here's what we're taking, here's what we're going to need, and you need to make arrangements because we're going to take this property to build this on. And he was the person that carried that message, or went to go get the principal. I thought that was very interesting. And I think he was driving a bus at 12. See, when the project started, no kidding, I know he was at 13 and 14. He talked about it. That's how he kind of got in the car business. He was driving he tried people to work out there and stuff. So it was. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah, I didn't.
Through years I've sat here, and these things pop back into my head. I've been sitting here, it'll be 36 years, and this is my 35th, going on 36. I've been sitting here, and the stories, I've forgot so much of it. Just sitting here talking about it, things start popping back into my head.
That's why I said when I sat down, I haven't prepared anything.
No.
It'll all come to you when you start talking about it.
Sit here and start talking about it.
There's always some new story to find out.
I know that when they started the Manhattan Project, we had like 80,000 people just in Oak Ridge. Clinton, I'm sure our population
it did
ballooned too, didn't it?
Yeah, reading through the papers about what was going on, it kind of rocked Clinton's world a little bit. Just all these folks.
Yeah.
And there were camps. I don't know what they called them, but they were basically campgrounds for these temporary trailers and tents and little places for all these people to live.
Yeah.
And quite a bit of that was in Clinton. I'm not sure if the football team had to take a break that year, the high school football team, but there was a camp on the football field. Like that whole area was a camp.
Really?
For folks to live.
Football field where it is today?
Yeah, the football field's apparently always been right there.
I remember once there was, for a very short time, they floated moving the football field. Man, that ended quick. Like, no.
That's that protective.
Yeah, that's it.
Protective gene we've all got.
Absolutely. So it's very interesting stuff. What, you've referenced the newspaper quite a bit. Who started the newspaper and when did it start? Well, has it always been the Courier? You know, when I think of the Courier, I think of Horace Wells, you know.
Yeah.
And then
my mom worked for him, so I remember going into the paper when he was still there.
I don't think I ever met Mr. Wells.
So there was a paper called the Union Pilot that was like the 1860s, 1870s. I've never seen a copy of it.
Okay.
As I understand it, there are copies at the State Archives in Nashville, and one day when I'm down there, instead of going to Broadway and 2nd Avenue, I'll probably go down to the archives and
start reading the Union Pilot.
That's what I like. But then there was a Clinton Gazette and an Anderson County News.
Have you written any of this stuff down?
No, not really.
You should do that. You should.
It's all written down somewhere else. You
should compile it. You know what I mean? Because that history is going to live on forever and ever and ever. And you're it's rare to have somebody.
Find it,
yeah.
You know?
Well, that's my point. Is it's rare that people have the time to be able to delve into it like you've been able to do.
You almost kind of have to make it your job, your full-time job, which I've not been able to do yet. So
you got to sell a few more houses where you can do that, right?
If I didn't have to sell these houses, I could stay at the library all day. The library's got papers like the Clinton Gazette or the Anderson County News back to like 1880s. So you can start there.
When did the Courier come into being?
Oh, I think 1930 something. 1933, I think, might have been the first issue, and I think the Courier may have bought. I think Horace Wells may have bought one of those other papers out.
Okay.
And they actually had that original, the first couple of months of 1933, in an old bound volume down at the Courier.
Oh, wow.
That's another place you can go check stuff out. It's pretty brittle and coming apart, but
it's there.
It's there.
When I bought the station in 1990, Mr. Stair, I bought it from Jim, and he told me about I guess he and Mr. Wells had an ongoing feud for decades, and it was heated. I mean, that's why he ran for mayor. That's when Jim Stair ran for mayor. That's why, and I don't know what started it, but he talked a lot about that. It was very interesting. He and Mr. Wells.
I haven't ever heard that, but that is.
Oh yeah.
That plays right into just how. There's really nothing new under the sun. The newspaper and the media. Back then, they really would. People depended on that to know what was going on and to maybe form an opinion about whatever the topic of the time was.
And I think that those two men battled about who controlled the narrative, because Mr. Stair sat here where I'm sitting right now, and had coffee time. That's what he did in the morning, and he would talk about, he gave his perspective on things, and I guess it differed a little bit from Mr. Wells's, and they butted heads quite a bit.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more about that sometime.
You know what, Walt could probably tell you about it, and I'll ask him. Walt still does our sports for us, and it's he could probably tell us quite a bit about it. But yeah, Jim told me a little bit, and it was very interesting. But I think it was born out of competition too, because the newspaper was the only game in town, advertising-wise, at the time when they put the station up in '60, I think. There might have been other avenues, but this definitely, the radio station definitely took a lot of advertising revenue out of the newspaper, from the newspaper. So I guess it was possibly born of that competition.
It's good. It's good stuff. That's good history.
I'll have to get with Walt and find out, and I'll get with you and let you know, or get him with you. But yeah, you should put all this. You should compile all this together and put it in a book and sell it.
My golden years of retirement. That's what I'm going to work.
Put it all together in a book. Tell us more about how we were affected by the Manhattan Project.
The influx of people brought a lot of folks from other areas. So I know there were a lot of churches established because people moved here and they didn't find the church that they had attended back home, so they would open one here. So people brought a lot of I won't say different cultures necessarily, but just there were new things that came up like that.
Were most of the people that came here for the Manhattan Project, were they brought from the north, or were they brought from the west, or just
I think it was all
everywhere?
over, really.
Was it?
I've gotten the church down here at the end of Spring Street, Church of Christ, that's where I go to church, and I know our history. A lot of those folks they just moved from Middle Tennessee. They didn't move far, but they were like, this is a great job, a great opportunity, so they didn't come, not a huge difference from Middle Tennessee, but that, they came from close by,
Sure.
Alabama and other southern states, but then, ran into folks from Michigan, and they came from places really far away. I think it was a magnet for people from all over the place.
When you talk about just indelible things that have happened here that have affected the whole country, the world, as a matter of fact. I mean, first dam, hydroelectricity, the Manhattan Project. I mean, we ended the war.
fed off of the electricity from that dam. I think that was one of the big reasons.
Really?
Oak Ridge was chosen, is we had all of that available electricity. So
that's interesting.
Just one thing after another, and
I was going to ask you if you knew.
Just sat here this whole time and played a part in that, and things that changed the world. And
what was the first business established here? Do you know?
Very first business?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably in one of these old books that I've got. I do know that Man-Page Vowell opened the first tavern back when the county was brand new.
Now, who did it? Who?
Man-Page Vowell.
Man-Page.
Yeah, it's a good name for any of you expectant mothers.
Man-Page
Vowell. Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, the first businesses were what you would think of in a western frontier town or something.
Five and
blacksmith.
Yeah.
It was more like blacksmith, tanner, working in leather, the saloon,
the
saloon. Hotels and things like that for people traveling through. People would have to travel to come to the courthouse, to do their legal business, so they'd have to have somewhere to stay. So there were a lot of hotels and boarding houses and stuff too.
Do you know how Burrville was chosen at the time to be the county seat? How or why?
I found the original deed from when I don't know what they called them, not trustees, or I don't know what their title would have been, the folks that were responsible for finding a piece of land for the county seat. They found 50 acres available from I believe a German settler named Leib. Really? And bought 50 acres from him. And it was, right here, right around Central Clinton, where the courthouse.
And that's
the deed actually at the registrar's office. It's written, of course, in beautiful script, pen, probably a feather.
Isn't that cool?
Pen or something like that, but it's still there. We're one of only two courthouses in the whole state that never burned down. So all of those deeds, all of those deeds, even from back in the late 1700s,
was
were
it
there.
Is it the Civil War where the courthoughs were burned, or was it just?
I think things burned a lot back back in those days.
Didn't have fire departments, or not, nothing like we have today, of course. But
yeah, so you can actually see where it says the town of Burrville will be established, and took the 50 acres, and it's got the meets and bounds description of you go down this riverbank and up to this tree and everything, and read all about that. So
that's very.
I think maybe it was close to the river, so it was people. In frontier times, there still weren't any trains, so you floated or you rode a horse to get to where you needed to get to.
And in the Clinch River at the time was probably maybe 30 feet, 40 feet wide. It wasn't a huge river.
Yeah, it varied quite a bit too with the flooding and the rainy seasons. It would get a lot bigger, and it changed a lot.
And the pearl business, that was very interesting. Have you delved into that much?
A little bit, yeah. I like about the people,
Yeah.
And I've read about the Hendrickson family. we've got a Hendrickson Street in Clinton, but the Hendrickson family was probably the number one pearling. They made it a big business.
Gotcha.
Sam was the dad, Sam Hendrickson. I think his wife's name was Bess. I think she wrote for the paper.
And did they?
So the society column for the paper. But, they would employ a lot of people. The regular townsfolk would come down on the weekends and try to find pearls. I mean, like everybody got in on it.
I actually think this piece of property and the next one was owned by the Hendrickson family.
Yeah, they were big property owners.
I know the next one was because we used to have towers over there. And Betty Hendrickson, that's who. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's good. I knew that they had owned quite a bit of property, and maybe had even developed some real estate. I think they built houses too, in addition to finding pearls. But it was a big business for them. If you drive down Hicks Street, at the corner of Hicks and Lamar, there's a beautiful old stone house that's a surveyor now, professional land surveyors. But as I understand it, that was the Hendrickson's house. So I said that pretty old stone house is the house that Pearls built.
Yeah, I bet you're right. That's amazing. And then we lost the pearls because of the dam, and
the water temperature cooled off quite a bit, and the mussels couldn't live in that cold water anymore.
Of the running of the movement of the water.
The Clinch is famous for being cold, and but it got colder. When the dam was built, and the mussels just it wasn't conducive to them, so they died off, and the pearling industry died off too.
That was when I first heard that. I was just amazed. I don't know why, but the idea of freshwater pearls and
and they are. If you've never seen one, they're funny shapes. They're not round all the time. They can be a lot of different colors too.
Really, I didn't know that. I mean, I've seen dark ones, you know what I mean? I've seen them when they look almost purple.
Purple, actually, yeah. Some of those old newspaper articles, they wrote about everything back in, so I read about, like, one of the biggest ones they ever found.
How big?
Was wine-colored. They said it was, so I guess it was, between red and purple. I don't know how big it was, but it was sold for thousands of dollars, which, back then was huge money.
Golly. That's, again, just cool stuff that...
Yeah, you ask people if they know about this stuff, like, Clinton's pearling, and they're like, nope, never heard it.
No,
so.
My wife didn't know it, she's been here for, I don't know, 30 years, I guess. She didn't know it.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things about when I come to talk to anybody about it is, if I've given you some story that you'd never heard about, then it's been a good time.
There's a plaque on Market Street that talks a little bit about the pearl.
Yes, that's an official state historical marker. You have to apply through, I guess, Tennessee Historic Commission to get those.
That's cool.
The last one that went up was at First Baptist for Paul Turner, but the one on Market Street's the same commission for the state.
And Joe's got something. I think he's got something out of Aspire about the pearls in the Clinch.
He's got some great. I love it that he did that.
No, that's amazing.
He's got some great. Almost like black granite plaques right around the restaurant.
The Great Eight, I think is what he calls it, the 8 big things.
Those are really, really impressive, and I hope folks that visit and go to the park and go eat take the time to go out there and read those.
Have you walked the trails to see the things that Jerry wrote?
Jerry let me read what he wrote. I haven't seen them in person but they're scattered all throughout those trails, which is really cool.
He talked about a couple of them when he was here, and I haven't got to go walk and see them. And I know that he wrote one about David West because he brought David a copy of it up here. So David's out there somewhere. David asked me, he said, "Have you seen my plaque?" I said, "No, I've not walked the trails or rode the trails yet. I've not got up enough gumption. I'm going to. I want to go.
I'm going to wait till it gets a little warmer.
Absolutely.
Go check them out.
Tell us something else interesting about the city of Clinton that people that are out there listening to us probably didn't know.
Well, the businesses that have opened in Clinton have always been good stories too. A lot of these families are still around. The Hoskins family is still around.
Absolutely.
The Medeiros family have found to be been very interesting to read about. They were a big family. Mm-hmm. As I understand it, they came to America from Portugal. Back in their family history.
Sure.
They were, I think I've seen some pictures of a lot of them, and they all looked alike. Very, very dark hair and dark eyes, but they did a lot of different things in Clinton. Clinton Drugstore was one of the businesses that they opened, which is still around.
Yeah.
But a lot of other businesses too. One of the brothers was a doctor. His house is not far from here. It's right on Main Street. Can't think of the number. But he also built the first telephone in Clinton. Built it himself.
A telephone?
Built a telephone because he wanted to be able to. I think there's some old book that quotes him saying, you know, when you can pick up the phone and find out how much this farm product is selling for in another city, you know, you're going to be better able to do business in your town. So
what did he hook it to? I mean, were there
first
phones?
of all, I don't know how you build a phone.
I don't have any idea how would anybody conceive to think that's amazing.
I think he was just interested in it, so he figured out how to do it. And it was, you know, in the 1890s when he did it. It was a long, long time ago. But he built the phone and ran a line from his doctor's office to his brother's house, which was down Eagle Bend somewhere, so he could call his brother. But I think right after that, there were probably 5 or 6 businesses that ended up with phones and probably 5 houses. You know, so it wasn't something that was all over the place, but some people jumped on it pretty quick. So
that's cool. I wonder if he built their phone. That's crazy.
I guess. Well, you know, and they ended up opening
how
a phone
industrious,
company.
Man. That's just.
Yeah, and they were looking for ways to better the city, better the businesses, and building a telephone seemed to make sense to them.
We reaped the benefit of those folks that came here that saw whatever they saw in this town and put so much into it. You know, we reap those benefits still today.
We do. I feel a lot of responsibility to number one, not forget them.
Yeah.
And to talk about them, because I think we all know that feeling of I don't want to be forgotten.
Sure. No, I got.
Yeah, I don't want to forget them and all the things they did, and also I want to. One day I'll be history.
Yeah, we all will be.
We all will be. Like in 100 years, I hope people sit around and talk about Ron and
enjoy
and say good things about us, that we did good things for our community.
I hope so. I hope people think well of us when we're gone. Let's talk a little bit more about Market Street, because I remember in the 90s what Market Street was like. You know, you couldn't hardly give a building away down there. Hammers was it. The comic book shop. There was the barber was down there, and
hardware
had
store,
the
probably.
shoe store. I can remember taking. I've got tons of boots. My mom, from when I was a young man till this day, for my birthday I'd get a pair of boots, and for Christmas I'd get a pair of boots, and so I kept them all.
Yep.
So I can remember going down to the shoe store and having my boots resold. That was still doing it in the 90s.
I took a pair of shoes there too.
Did you? That's cool. They're no longer there. I was going to take some boots down, I don't know, a number of years ago, and they had closed, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah, it's been around a long time, since the 1860s.
That's cool.
So it's been a good, I won't say a microcosm of what's going on in Clinton and in the world and in shopping and retail. And you know, back then it was very much about all the things people needed to live in a town back then.
Yeah.
To try to stay alive. So lots of grocery stores.
Okay.
Places to buy food, places to buy supplies, rope and harnesses and things for horses and that kind of stuff. As the city changed, like I said, in the 1880s, 1890s, turn of the century, it catered more toward people. You know, it was traffic on those trains.
Hotels.
People were coming all the time, coming through town. They'd need to stop and spend the night. They'd need to eat. They'd need to get a haircut. So you saw a lot of those kinds of businesses that were open then. 50s and 60s, it was still, you know, where you came to buy, you know, clothes at Llewellyn Miller Department Store, or Bernard's, or Ellison's. There's a lot of clothing places.
I can remember.
You just came to shop, you know, to get the stuff you needed. And then the 60s rolled around. It was urban renewal, and things were starting to move out into suburban into suburbia, I guess.
Yeah.
Which we saw trickle into the 70s and 80s too. Shopping malls.
Oh, yeah.
Our Kmart shopping center got built probably about that time, which
Yeah.
was cutting edge.
Absolutely.
For retail. So, people left downtowns to go to the big strip centers and stuff like that.
I
I've
remember
heard people talk about wanting to tear down a lot of those old buildings because they didn't really have a use anymore. Thank goodness.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
I can remember I grew up in Campbell County, and we would come down from Campbell County to Hammers and Kmart.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have those things up there at the time. This was in the 70s. I can't remember. I'm sure there was stuff downtown La Follette that very similar to what was downtown Clinton. But as far as department stores and things like that, I can remember as a little kid, Mom taking us to Hammers and getting school clothes.
I hated that.
It was a number of times a year we made the trek to Clinton to Hammers for sure.
But the street got reinvented. It just takes on a new life every couple of decades. It has a new use, a new purpose, and now it's like it's become something that people want to come to from all kinds of different areas.
Absolutely.
They want to come down and visit it for not just the variety of the stores and things they can go do and see down there, but the fact that it still looks the way that it does. That it didn't get torn down or glassed over and covered up, which is what happened to a lot of downtowns.
It's beautiful today, and I'm very anxious to see after this project is completed.
Yeah, there's some more. I saw some orange cones and barrels laid out this weekend, so it's probably imminent.
Yeah, it's coming, and there's a lot of work being done right now on Market Street. Do you know the history of the Daugherty building and the Daugherty family and any of that?
A little bit. Mr. Daugherty, the original Mr. Daugherty was I'm gonna get the initials wrong. J.R. or J.L. Can't remember. Forgive me, any descendants out there listening, but he had a furniture business in Fork Mountain, which I'm not exactly sure I could tell you where that is.
Fork Mountain, Tennessee?
Yeah.
I don't know where that is.
Yeah. I think it's past Bryceville, up pretty far off. But he had a furniture business there, and he opened it here in Clinton, and he had this building built late 30s, early 40s. The stone was all quarried, I think, in Oliver Springs.
Wow.
Carted up here on trucks, and I even read about two famous local oxen that pulled some of that stone out of the mountain.
Why were they famous, the oxen?
I don't know. Apparently, at the time, everybody knew about these oxen. I don't know if they were huge or something. They had names. Charlie and Ball were the names of the two oxen
that pulled the stone from Oliver Springs to build the Daugherty building.
Springs for the Daugherty building. So
Charlie and
Ball, yeah. And I've read one little article.
Who owned Charlie and Ball?
I'm not sure. Anybody from Oliver Springs that knows, call in.
That's cool. Just little things like that. Who would
funny little stories that, in the grand scheme of life, they don't matter. They don't mean anything, but they do.
Absolutely. The Daugherty building, and today it's beautiful, functional, apartments.
Yeah, and back to one of its, I guess the apartments, I won't say they were an afterthought. He built the building to be his furniture store.
Sure.
But I think that the apartments, he added floors as they were building it. I think it got bigger and bigger because the demand was so high.
Really?
Again, in the 40s.
Yeah.
There's so many people moving to the area.
So it wasn't
somewhere to live.
It wasn't the structure that it is today.
Yeah, it ended up being that way. I think his original design was probably maybe a 3-story building and ended up being 4 or 5 or whatever it is now.
Wow.
I'd read a little bit about how he changed his plan after he saw the reaction. People were like, yes, He
kept adding to it.
Kept adding on.
That's cool. That's very cool. And so when he started out, it started out with apartments and the furniture store when he opened the doors. Yeah. I didn't realize that. I thought it was all furniture.
Those top 2 floors were apartments from the beginning. I don't know if you ever got to go in it before they renovated.
I did way long time ago.
Yeah.
I did, and the top floors. I went up on the top floors, even though
Pretty.
yeah, they were. There was nothing up there, and I can't even remember why I got to go up there. It was It was in the '90s. There was antique stuff still in there. There were antique stores in there.
They had he had apartments on the outside that were pretty typical and had windows.
Yeah.
But then in the middle of the building, you had daylight apartments that had no windows.
Wow.
I guess if you'd driven all night down 25W and wanted to sleep during the day, you could get one of those rooms.
That's
just
cool.
for the night with no daylight waking you up.
That's cool. How long did it function as a furniture store? Do you know?
I think it's probably the 80s.
Okay.
80s, maybe even into the 90s. I think it was open. I've seen some more
I was
recent.
trying to recall if it was a furniture store when I got here, because I bought this in '90.
If it wasn't, it had just maybe just closed, but it was.
That's cool.
Pretty long lived.
I'm glad that it's functional now.
Yeah.
I really am, because I can recall going all the way back to 2006. People trying to do something with it. The different people were going to get it and do stuff with it.
The size of it,
It's
one thing to restore a little storefront, and it's another to.
So
huge building.
Going back to businesses, anything stand out on local businesses that you think folks will find interesting?
Yeah, the Magnet Mill story is really pretty neat.
Yes.
I think there were six local men that said, we're interested in getting in on this manufacturing. It was 1905, 1906.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about what a life would have been like back then. People were still doing, farming and stuff. There were a lot of businesses that had opened, downtown on Market Street. But the manufacturing, we didn't really have anything like that here then.
Yeah.
So there were six guys. A lot of names you'd remember. Dr. Hall.
Yeah.
The first Dr. Hall. There were two.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hall the first, and then his son, who a lot of folks remember.
Yes.
Being down on behind Market Street. I think Mr. Llewellyn was another investor. Mr. Cagle, I don't know much about him, but there's a street named after him in North Clinton. I guess they all invested together and opened this textile mill in 1906. It was not huge, I don't think, but it was. It ended up growing immensely.
And they made stockings?
Yeah.
Is that what
Stockings, pantyhose, I guess you call it now.
Yeah.
The city manager, Roger Hauk, has got, somebody dropped this off at City Hall one day, but he's got some original packages of some of those stockings.
Really?
Mint condition. They were just interesting to see. They were extremely delicate.
Wow.
And the brand name was Charmette.
Who would have just thought, I'm going to open
make
a
a
business
pantyhose.
making pantyhose?
In an small East Tennessee town.
But that business, as you said, we fared so much better than a lot of the rest of the country, because they kept it open, running it at a deficit. They lost money.
They did,
But they kept it up. They chose to keep it open.
Yeah, I don't think they had to lay anybody off or cut anyone, and that was intentional, from what I understand. At the time, that was the late 20s. Carl Kincaid, who everyone's probably more familiar with him now that the Kincaid House has been open for several years as a wedding venue down on Eagle Bend. But Mr. Kincaid was, he started out just in the office there when he was a young man and made his way up to be the president.
Really?
But he was very, very much in tune with making sure people stayed employed and doing what he could.
And I think at the time, didn't they employ something like 1,400 people? Or
Yes.
no?
I don't know the number, but it was lots and lots.
It was. I mean, it was a huge. When compared to the population of the city, it was substantial. I can't remember, but it was. I wanted to say 1,400.
And apparently Clinton didn't suffer like a lot of communities did during that time because of that.
Well, we had people that could build phones. We had some.
Yeah, everybody
genius
stayed
people.
working and getting paid and able to just carry on.
We'll save. I was going to get you to go into the murder on Market Street. But we'll save,
that's a good one.
Let me do this. Let me see if anybody. Do you mind if I ask if listeners if they have any questions?
Sure.
That you might be able to.
I can't guarantee I'll know the answer, but I'll find out.
Well, I always tell them I'll give them an answer even if it's wrong. But if you guys do have a question about something in our city, or maybe you have a story you'd like to share with us, that'd be awesome too. Call us at 865-457-1380. I'm not sure if Jasper's out there or not, so if it rings and I don't get it quickly, just give me a moment. I'm going to take a quick break and we'll come back. Joey Smith's with us, and we're just talking about the history of Clinton. He's made I've talked to a number of people who said, you need to get Joey up there to talk about the city of Clinton.
It's a lot of pressure.
Not really.
I hope I've got enough good info to make it worthwhile.
I was just sitting here making notes, stuff that, I feel like I should know, being in this community as long as I've been, but I don't. I find it extremely interesting.
It's all buried just right under the surface.
It's cool, though. Do you get excited when you find something and you're like, holy cow?
Absolutely.
Like
I'll
treasure hunting.
I'll text people and say, guess what I just found out? And my friends will text back and say, are you at the library?
Of course I am.
Yeah, I am.
I saw on Facebook a few years ago, I think when Louis Ridner was running for office, someone somewhere downtown found a door, I think, to his father's old business.
Mm-hmm.
And gave it to him. It was like the original door.
I saw that. I remember that.
Wasn't that cool? I thought, how cool was that? For one, I can't remember who found it. Sorry, Louis, but he was so grateful to get it in. Then Louis posted pictures. I think he put it in his home.
Yeah, so I saw that. I remember that, and that was awesome.
And then I'll have to call John and find out. But John Hutchins ended up with this huge door from one of the old businesses downtown, and he and Jen built their home. He put it out there. It's the entrance into his garage. It's massive. It's big, thick, I've never seen a door like that, like a safe door, but it's wooden. It's huge. That came out of, downtown Market Street. So one of the old businesses. Yeah. I don't know how he got the door, but a lot of this.
I've been to his house and I don't remember that door. I'm going to have to get him to show it to me.
Get him to show you that door and give you the story on it. It's in the garage part where you go into the house. From in there, that door, I don't know how big it is, but it's huge. And it's got a good story to it.
I'll text him when I leave.
Get this, ask him about the story about the door. He'll probably tell you I made it up. Maybe I did, but I don't think so. I think I remember it correctly. All right, guys, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Joey here on Ask Your Neighbor. This is AM 1380, WYSH, FM 101.1 and 99.5.
Owner, I'm always looking for peace of mind, especially when I have a costly, unplanned expense, like a cooling system repair or replacement. That's when I turn to the eScore Quality Contractor Network. They're the pros who've been specially trained and approved by TVA and your local power company. The quality contractors are licensed and insured, so you can be assured the job will be done right and inspected for free. Contact your local power company or visit energyright.com to learn more.
When you have a wreck, a good day can become a bad day in a hurry. But when it's time to get that car towed away, there is a number you need to know. 865-457-6927. Lowe's Tows. Did you know they work with all insurance agencies and body shops? And they can assist you throughout the whole process. Call 865-457-6927. If you need a tow, you need Lowe's Tows. 865-457-6927. They're locally owned and operated. They will tow anything, anywhere, from a Volkswagen to a semi-truck, from across the street to across the state. The stress of having a wreck is bad enough, so call Lowe's Tows, and that's one less thing you have to worry about. 614 Clinch Avenue in Clinton. Call 865-457-6927 or find them on Facebook at Lowe's Tows.
Hi, this is Laura Paul, here to tell you why my hardwoods, carpet, tile, and stone for my fireplace all came from locally owned David's Abbey Carpet and Floors. I asked the owner what they wanted to share with you, and I was told, please tell our customers how much we and our staff really appreciate them doing business with us. Make sure they know we realize we would not be here celebrating 52 years in business with 3 generations of our very own family working for the business were it not for them from all all over East Tennessee, multiple generations too. Laura, tell everyone that hears your voice, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I said, okay, I'll talk about more flooring next time. From the bottom of their hearts, thank you. That's David's Abbey Carpet and Floors. Go see why they're different. Knoxville, Pigeon Forge, and Maryville too.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a walk-up with central air and a skylight, and you found it. Now, every Friday night, you get to fall asleep to the sound of your downstairs neighbors' dance parties. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Shopping with your parents can be embarrassing.
Why would they sell jeans with holes in them? I'm going to speak to the manager.
Mom!
That hoodie is giving. You should get it. YOLO.
Thanks to the Chase mobile app, your kid can shop independently while you keep an eye on their spending. So you can go from
We can be twinsies.
to
How was shopping? Saw you stayed on budget.
thanks, Mom. Freedom for kids, control for parents. That's family banking from Chase.
Account subject to approval. Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank N.A. member FDIC.
Good morning. Have a great Monday, everybody. It's going to be a beautiful day with increasing high-level clouds becoming partly to mostly cloudy before the day is over. It's also going to be a warmer day. Forecast high temperatures back in the mid to upper 50s, so at or slightly above average. And that trend continues. Tuesday, we're at 63. We're going to be in the upper 60s to near 70 on Wednesday with a cold front bringing us some rain showers on Thursday. Check out the latest video forecast weather update using the East Tennessee Weather app. It's free. That's a check of your latest forecast. I'm meteorologist Mike Witcher from the East Tennessee Weather Center for AM 1380, FM 101.1, and FM 99.5 WYSH.
We don't have any questions. I usually say no news is good news, but I really thought people would have questions for us or share stories with us.
I'll put them to sleep.
No. Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to have you back just because, as you find things and stumble across things that you think would be interesting.
Probably not going to run out of any stories.
Go ahead and let's talk about the murder on Market Street, because
I just found that too. It was just
what happened.
I accidentally found this story.
How did you?
I think I was.
How do you accidentally find something? Looking for something else?
So I was researching this little McAdoo cemetery that I was talking about earlier, and two of the graves there they're fallen over now. I found them, kind of wiped the leaves off of them, and it was the Shipe family.
Shipe.
There's a Shipe Street between Main Street and Apple Blossom. Yes. So I said, I got to find out some more about these people. I'm just like, I wonder what they did. There's a street named after them. So I started looking into the houses. I haven't really come to a conclusion about it, but I think that the Knight's Flower house was the Shipe house.
Okay.
They did live around where Shipe Street was, owned quite a bit of property, and this was like the 1870s that I found this story. So that Knight's Flowers house may be one of the oldest houses in the city. I'm not sure. I hadn't really been able to verify it. But so researching some of these grave sites of these folks, somebody somewhere, and I'll give credit to the internet for helping me find this.
Okay.
They had posted some newspaper articles from Knoxville newspapers.
Okay.
About John Shipe. Major John Shipe. He was a major in the Union Army in the Civil War, but he lived right here in Clinton. He was a postmaster, apparently, too.
Wow.
Found that out at the library in they have some old book of every postmaster that's ever been in Anderson County. Somebody made a book about that once. So I found that there.
Okay.
So he was a
somebody made a book about the postmasters.
Yeah, all the postmasters you ever want to know.
That's cool. All right.
So Major Shipe was a postmaster here, had been a military man. But apparently, as the story goes, his son, Sam, who was a shoemaker down...
Sam
Shipe,
okay,
the shoemaker.
Wow.
Had been a witness in some kind of court case involving the superintendent of schools.
Okay.
Whose name was Hugh Bonham.
I've heard that name.
So Hugh Bonham said something about Sam Shipe while on the stand at this trial, and I have not gotten any transcripts or anything from this court case. I've actually contacted Zach at the archives at the county archives to see if he could find anything. Hadn't found anything yet, but Hugh Bonham said something about Sam Shipe, and these newspaper articles alluded to the fact that the case involved perhaps a lady of the evening, and just, I don't know. It's like you couldn't make
salacious, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty juicy.
Cool.
Well, Major Shipe took great offense to whatever Hugh Bonham had said about his son, and apparently for weeks or months.
Where did Mr. Bonham supposedly make these remarks?
I guess on the stand.
Testifying in a trial.
Testifying in court.
Okay.
And it had, besmirched the Shipe family name or something. So, I think that Major Shipe was fond of his firearm. I think he carried his gun all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But he had pretty much warned Hugh Bonham that he was going to get him one day.
Really?
So there were some pretty detailed descriptions of what happened in some of the Knoxville newspapers.
Do share.
I think it was maybe a Saturday, and apparently early in the morning on a Saturday in the 1870s, everybody went down to the train depot to start the morning off. I don't know if that's where you got your news for the
coffee
day,
or whatever.
Coffee, I don't know, but everybody had headed downtown. Everybody was down on Market Street, and Hugh Bonham was in a shoe shop, another shoe shop. It wasn't Mr. Shipe's shoe shop, talking to some folks, and Major Shipe and his son Sam and one other individual. It was the county clerk, whose last name was Queener.
Oh, wow.
I think it was Alexander.
Alexander.
I'm not sure if I'm got that fact right, but the three of them found Hugh Bonham, and it was on.
Really?
I don't know who attacked first, but they started beating each other with clubs and sticks, and rocks. And there were all these witnesses. It was right in the middle of the street.
It was like a big fight.
A big brawl right in the middle of the street. And I don't know if you've got young viewer or listeners, I'll try to edit it. But it ended up, they ended up shooting him, and killed Hugh Bonham in the middle of the street.
Market Street.
In the middle of Market Street. Either Market or Main. I'm not exactly sure where they ended up, but it was right around Market Street. So.
Wow.
Murdered him, but apparently, and I never did hear I haven't found the verdict of the case, what happened. I guess it wasn't bad enough that they wouldn't name a road after the guy, right? So, self-defense or something.
We changed the name of the town, but we're going to leave the road the same. Wow.
But then when I found Major Shipe's obituary, he apparently had gotten in an altercation with somebody else and had... And had pulled his firearm out, and I think that either the sheriff or the city marshal had to take him out. So that's where he met his end.
So he met his demise.
Yeah, he was fond of his
on the other
pistol.
end of a gun. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Found his wife's obituary too, and it talked about what a sweet and gentle, Christian lady she was. So she must have been a saint to be married to.
Wow, he sounds like a case.
It was a character though, so who knows? That was so long ago that who knows? All you've got are these little write-ups in these old papers about it. But.
And did he stand trial? Did he go on the first one?
That's what I'm trying to find out now is whatever happened with that case.
Wow.
I need some.
Somebody's got some information.
I need somebody to find for me.
Where is that something that we have somewhere?
I think the county archives in the top floor of the courthouse has probably got that in some old bound leather book somewhere. I just got to find it.
That's cool. We'll do this if you don't care. I'd like to do this again a couple of times, or maybe on a semi-regular basis when you stumble across stuff. For one, I record everything and I'll archive it and keep it as far as the audio, so there'll be a record of it. Hopefully, when after we're gone, I don't know how they'll preserve digital audio those days when they get here, but they'll be away.
Well, people have a better chance of finding it than we do.
and also too, when like BBB on TV, they archive it and you can search and find it. You know what I mean? People. So now this information, I don't know that they could Google it by the information we're talking about, but they could find it and hear me and you talking about it years from now and have a recollection of, you know, the history that we're talking about. But as you stumble across stuff, or as you have the idea, oh, this would be interesting, jot it down, and then, you know, a couple of months or whenever you got time, a couple of weeks, I don't care, just whenever you can, come back and let's talk some more about it.
Yeah, and a lot of the good stuff I get ends up when I can talk to people that said, hey, I know a little bit about that story too. Let me tell you what I found out.
So if there are people out there and they've got interesting tidbits or facts or whatever, you'd love to hear from them.
All day long.
What's the easiest way to get a hold of you? I used Facebook, but
yeah, Facebook works fine. Just message me there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. I really do appreciate you taking time to come up here and do this.
It's fun to talk about, so anytime.
I enjoy hearing about it. It's as much to entertain me as it is to entertain the listeners.
Well, that's always a relief to me when I come talk to somebody about history, and I think they're probably going to regret ever.
No. I feel
people
like
seem to like it. They are interested.
Well, you said something earlier, and I feel the same way. You say you feel a responsibility. You know, I've said numerous times of how much this city has given me, you know. I've built a career, a family, a home, you know, all out of the city of Clinton. Before we go, hey, are you calling to speak with us on Ask Your Neighbor this morning?
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, thank you. What can we help you with?
I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
Turn my radio down.
You go right ahead, dear.
I just wanted to make a comment about how interesting the talk show was today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And something about Magnet Mills, I was going to say, back in about 1935, I believe it was, one of my mom's sisters worked there, and when it was hosiery.
Yeah, the hosiery mill, yeah.
Right, she did that. Then I got excited one time about I know how to sew, but I thought, I'm going to get me a factory job and learn how to run that machine. So that's what I did too.
Your mom was Annis Reidner, right?
Yes, Ron.
I knew you. That voice, it took me just a minute.
Okay. It didn't take you long.
No, it didn't take me too long. But
anyways, it's my voice, I guess.
Yeah, I recognize. Absolutely. Well, I've known you for a while. Darlene, right?
Yes.
There you go.
Got it. the only Darlene, really. But anyways, I worked there, and I loved it. You
worked at Magnet Mills?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I loved working there and sitting and learning a new trade, like sewing on this machine. I thought, man, I'll get into making clothes or something.
That's cool.
But anyways, I really called to, tell y'all I really enjoy this station. And when you came to Clinton, you had a good program back then, and you still do.
Oh, thank you, darling.
You're very welcome. And another thing, if you can get somebody from good old La Follette, Campbell County, to come on your station, ask your neighbor one day or whatever, I would really appreciate that, because that's where all my family and grandmothers and great-grandmothers.
Well, I think somewhere down the line we're related.
I think we are, too.
I remember my mom talking about it, the Reidners. And I think your mom told me that, too.
Oh, did she?
I think so. I can't remember. I don't know where. Maybe again, I'm getting old, Darlene. I don't know. I might have just dreamt it. I don't know.
You're not getting old. You're just getting better.
Okay.
Hello.
Well, I'll take it. All right.
But anyways, my mom and dad knew your grandparents.
Yeah. Now, did they know my Meredith family grandparents or my Stooksbury family grandparents, or do you know?
I think both, really.
Yeah, I think that I'm pretty sure the Merediths and the Wright. I'm pretty sure they knew my mama and papa Meredith, Woodrow and Tootie Meredith.
And we was related to the McNeelys up there,
Yes.
doctors or whatever. This was years ago before we all moved back home here,
Yeah.
But if you could really,
I will.
And I would appreciate that so much because I love. Now, not long ago, you did have somebody on that talked about Coal Creek.
When Jerry Shattuck was up here, yes.
Yes, and I got all that information. I make a copy of it because when all of my great-grandchildren, when they get bigger, they'll have all this information if they want to write a book or whatever.
That's cool.
So it's always good to take notes, ain't it?
Yes, it is. Preserve it and pass it down.
But anyways, you have a good day and a better one tomorrow.
Thank you, Miss Darlene. You have a good day.
Thank you. See ya.
See you. Bye-bye. Yeah, her family has always been a huge supporter of the radio station. Her mom, all of them have, and been very encouraging to us, just like she was there, very complimentary. And so I think that reflects I think everybody enjoys hearing. I mean, we might bore some people. There might be some people that are, you know what I mean? The past is past, and I'm not like that in so much as I disregard it. I'm forward thinking, I think, but it's like we talked about earlier. It kind of gives you a sense of who you are and where you come from.
Everybody needs to know that they're part of something bigger than just them.
Yeah.
And I think your community is probably one of the number one things that you think about, to know, why things are the way they are, why this building's here, why that street's named that, and then, like, what are you going to leave for your town during your life and when you're gone? I think I told you during the break, I like to talk to groups of kids about Clinton history, and I'm always so excited that they care, because every time I go, I think, well, this will be the year, and then I get booed out of the room. And it never
you sell
happens.
yourself short, buddy.
It never happens. They always stay engaged the entire time. And I'm like, why do they care? I was like, I care. And that's part of that identity for them. I think that it's really something that everybody needs.
I think you and I share a similarity in so much as this town, this city, or whatever, has delivered a lot to us, I believe. On my half, I'm positive. And it was, when I bought the station in 90, all I was thinking about was eating food, you know what I mean? Surviving and making, generating revenue. In 1990, AM stations weren't doing well. FM was huge. And Mr. Charlie Phillips, that had been here forever, had opened an FM station in Oliver Springs. It was extremely competitive. So, I wasn't thinking about history. I wasn't thinking about community. I was thinking about selling ads, trying to get this business up off the ground. But as you do that, and then you're in the community every day, and you learn these little things, and there's so many people like the caller and her family, Darlene and her family, that help get you where you are, get me where I am anyway. At some point, you start to think, you want to contribute, you want to be part, you want to, you know what I mean? And I did that, I still do, try to do stuff, be part of the community, be part of the area, not so much to leave something behind for something somebody to read about, but as a gesture of thanks for all that it's given me.
Yeah, I always say I take a lot of inspiration from these folks that came before us in a lot of different ways, and mentioned Mr. Kincaid from Magnet Mills.
Yeah.
His obituary in the local paper, it quoted him. A lot of folks would say to him, Clinton really owes you a lot for what you did for Magnet Mills staying open, and Mr. Kincaid said, that community owes me absolutely nothing. He said, I owe everything that I am, to my community that I grew up in. So, boom. That sums it up pretty good.
That sums it up pretty well. if I don't reach out to you, you reach out to me at first. Either one.
Next juicy murder I find, I'm gonna.
So please, in all sincerity, please just reach. If you find something, holler at me, and so we can have.
And your listeners, I'm really trying to find some really good ghost stories.
Really?
This town's so old, and there's so many old buildings and houses around. I know quite a few, but I really would love to hear some more.
Ricky Kitzmiller, he's no longer with us, but he worked for me for years and years and years. Called him Big Rick, and he had a passion for ghost stories too, and he would search them out. He would go out to these paranormal groups and stuff, and there's a bridge somewhere up toward Bryceville. And they hung a man from it. And supposedly, and they might have hung more than one man from this bridge. I don't remember. This is during the coal area. It was a coal time, and there was a lot of roughnecks, But he told the story and talking about going up there and seeing these ghosts. He said he saw them. He swore he did. So he did the same thing. He solicited, and people gave him stories, and he had stories. So I'm sure there are people out there. So ghost stories.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Loves them. They're fun to hear.
Do you have any?
Oh yeah.
Well, tell us. I'm not going to let you go now. I want to hear the ghost story.
Well, probably the most famous. This one is one that probably a lot of folks heard about was the Darty Bill. Maybe I shouldn't tell that one. I know the guys are worried about not being able to rent the place out now, but
I think they're going to do just fine. Yeah, just fine.
But the Darty Building is always kind of a spooky place, and
when I went up to those floors, it was eerie.
And I'd always heard, I don't know if you heard this, growing up, I always heard this urban legend that there was that when Mr. Darty passed away, he lived in the building apparently, or had an apartment in the building. So he when he died, I heard they shut the door and left and never went back in.
In his apartment.
In his apartment. I thought, that's a good story. Well, years ago, my broker, Bobby Sellers, had that building for sale. At some point, and she knew that I loved history and old buildings, and she would let me go over there and show it to folks that were interested in seeing it.
Yeah.
Said, oh yeah, I'd love to. I'll be happy to do that anytime. Well, I got there early one day, and at the time there was this little quilt shop that ran downstairs. I don't remember who ran it, but the person working there, I just jokingly said, so is it haunted? And she said, yeah, honey, it is. She said, he gets on my nerves too. Opening the windows and turning the lights on and changing the radio station. She's like, it's really, gets on my nerves. That's funny. So I thought, well, I'm here early. I'm going to go explore. I've never been upstairs. There's two ways to get upstairs. In the old building, or before the renovation.
The old elevator.
There was an old freight elevator in the back of the building, and then there was a staircase on the side, which at the time was padlocked. You couldn't.
Yeah.
So the only way I could get up there was that old elevator. So it's one of the old-fashioned elevators that you held the button down, up or down, till you got where you wanted to go, and then you let go.
Yeah.
You didn't push floor 1, floor 2, floor 3. So I got up to the top floor, had a big door, you had to heave it to the side. And so I go out in the hallway. I'd never been upstairs, and the hallways were very just long and narrow, little lights hanging down. I'd poke my head in some of the apartments, and they were all empty, except for, just to try to, debris and stuff from being empty for so long. Well, I got to one apartment, opened the door, and it was just full of stuff. There was stuff in the kitchen cabinets and in the bathroom, and clothes in the closet and shoes. And I thought, whoa, this is it.
He thought you found
this is the one. And it was top floor, middle of the building. I said, this must be it. This has got to be Mr. Darty's apartment. And about that time, I heard some footsteps shuffling down the hallway. I thought, okay, nobody can really be up here because
the
elevator doesn't move.
Yeah, you move
be in it. So I went out in the hall and I looked. Of course, there's nobody there. I said, okay. I turned back around and looked towards the apartment and probably guess what his apartment number was.
What?
13.
Holy cow.
So, on Looney Tunes when the Roadrunner runs and it's just like a circle?
Yeah.
That was me. Headed back to the elevator. middle of the day, so it wasn't.
Did you
scary.
get that kind of hair on the back of your neck raise up
it was
feeling?
Creepy. That was weird. Well, the building, years later, it sold to somebody, and they opened up they may, I don't know where I've seen this, but there was a couple of YouTube videos or something about the fellow that bought that building and opened the coffee shop in the Cadence. That was Craig Hansen.
Yeah.
But he said when he bought the place and cleaned that apartment out, he said the building went crazy that night. Said the lights were flashing, the windows were open. He said the radio station was changing, the stuff was falling off of the shelves and shattering. He said the building went nuts that night when they cleaned that apartment out. So I don't know what it was or what I heard that day.
But you heard it.
I don't know. It was pretty creepy.
That's cool.
I'm sure it's perfectly fine now. Anyone that is looking to rent those apartments.
Those are some. I'm really glad, and I know there was a lot of controversy and worry about the building and the historical preservation. When I look at the elevator that they added, I think they did in my opinion, did a good job in preserving it. Yeah, it does. Doesn't it?
They had a time where you could go take some tours. Now I know that folks have moved into the apartments, but
I think
they did a really good job of keeping as much of the original building the way that it should, while it's still modern. They modernized everything, but all of the floors all still have the original hardwood floors, and the windows are original.
I know that they had the ones that they had to replace, they had a really hard time finding someone that could make those old windows like that.
Yeah, and you can't really see it till you're in the building, but there are numerous skylights on that top floor.
I didn't know that.
It's really unusual looking. It's pretty unique.
I was gonna say, and I don't remember what the year was. I lived upstairs for the first 10 years that I owned the business here. I couldn't afford to live anywhere else, so I literally lived in the attic. It's a very, very small apartment upstairs. But this was after that, I think, because this would have probably been around 2000. I bought my home in either 99 or 2000. I bought 502 Riverside. I lived there until I bought the one where I'm at now. And I was driving. It was early. It was dark. It was probably 5 in the morning, and I was driving to work. And I looked, and the lights were going on and off on the top floor of the Darty building. I witnessed that, and I thought, what? And at the time, I think the downstairs there was antiques or something, but the upstairs you could, like you said, you couldn't get to it. But I did. I saw that in one of those windows, and the window. I think the window was broken. I can't remember, but it was. I just like I'm looking at you. I saw that light in the dark, up, high in the sky, in Clinton's skyline, if you will.
Right.
And it was almost like not like somebody turning it on and off, but almost like a static, you know what I mean? Whereas,
energy.
Yeah, seriously, it was a light bulb. But, man, I've enjoyed this. I said we could talk for 2 more hours and it wouldn't bother me, but it might bother them, and my advertisers might wish I'd play some commercials.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming.
Yeah, anytime.
I really enjoy
doing it.
And I definitely will have you back, and don't be a stranger if something pops up you want to share with everybody.
I'll be collecting for next time.
Anything you come up with, we would love to hear. And then if there's anything that we can do, I know you work a lot with downtown historics. If there's anything the station can do to contribute or help,
This is great here. Just getting that's something that we try to do with the downtown group, is just when we can tell Clinton's story in whatever we might be doing.
And please share with them, too. I mean, those buildings, they all have a story. I looked at buying what was the old drugstore building right on the corner. I was going to buy that 8-10 years ago. I can't remember. Hang on, let me get this real quick. Good morning, WYSH. You calling to be with us on Ask Your Neighbor?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, well, go ahead. Is this Joe?
This is Joe, yeah.
Hello, Mr. Duke.
I was raised in Lake City, and, I'm 90 years old, so I've heard a lot of ghost stories, and that was Buzzard Roost Bridge, and I think it was in Beech Grove.
Oh, okay, Beech Grove. So you know that story.
Yeah, I've heard that all my life.
Share the details of it with us, Joe.
They had the Miners' War back then, And I think that's when they hung this man.
Okay.
And there was a lady that lived out around Lover's Bluff out of Lake City. I guess you know where that's at.
Yes, sir.
Okay. She said she heard the shot that killed her husband during the war, and she started screaming, and she said, my husband just got killed, and he was in the war there. I think it's around Pine Hill, down in that part where the mines was at. They was, patrolling there. But anyway, because the National Guard was coming there working, and prisoners too, trying to work and break the union, or what they was trying to get a union back then, I reckon. But anyway, I've heard a lot of ghost stories. Back when I was a kid, old men would tell us stories, and we'd be afraid to go home. We'd sit there every night because, we didn't have no TV back then,
Joe, why did they hang the guy that they hung there?
I reckon he was one that can, one of the National Guards or prisoners. They were going in working in the mines because the miners were trying to get more pay, and
the miners were fighting because the state used prisoners, and the miners wanted those jobs as opposed to having the prisoners doing it, and that's what started the whole fight, right?
But anyway. And up on the hill where I was raised, and that was right above the substation there in Lake City, there was a house up there, not too far from where I live, that this couple moved in there, and they one night they seen a hand come out of a wall. These houses were still sealed on the inside. People got these cold mailboxes and sealed the house on the inside, but it had a little 3/4 hole in it. And anyway, they seen a hand come out of it. And now these are the people I grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
And another night they seen a man in a white robe standing over them at the bed, overnight. So anyway, but there's thousands of ghost stories in Lake City that I've heard, all my life, Well,
now, Joe, you need to sit down with Joey and share some of those with him.
Is that Joey Smith, a realtor there?
Yes, him. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know his mom and dad, Joe, starting them. Yeah, my daughter worked with his mother, So,
okay.
Yeah, they're at the family clinic.
Okay.
Rita.
Yeah, small world.
It is a small world.
But, I've got some old newspapers, and in fact, I got an Anderson County book that you might want to look at, and a Cold Creek book, that they wrote a long time ago, But
I ought to know it by heart, but give me your phone number, Joe. At
29-2875.
2875. All right. I was close. I was.
Yeah. Anyway, but I've heard a lot of that. But I like that Chadwick too. That was downtown to me. And back when I was growing up, you couldn't hardly get through Lake City on Saturday afternoon. Because streets were crowded, parked on both sides of the road, and couldn't hardly walk. But because Beach Grove and Biceville, you were running big, and Lake City was the town to go to,
Oh, yeah, man, Cole was big. Cole was king.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, my dad worked in the mines. He worked at Hickey up going out of 63 out of Carrollville,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, up that way, so.
My papa worked in a mine up there in Carrollville. In fact, and he ended up starting an excavating business, and I can remember going with my dad. My dad worked for his dad, my papa, for a while, up there digging coal. Up on Carrollville Mountain. I've been up there with my dad while we did that, loading those big trucks. I've come off Carrollville Mountain in a dump truck loaded with coal with my dad. Scared me to death.
Yeah, I know. I've seen them come out of Biceville there loaded, heavy,
Yes.
Sometimes they'd lose coal. We'll come around the curves there, but yeah.
Dangerous job.
It is.
My grandfather too. He had a contract with the railroads delivering freight in a dray wagon, which was horse and wagon,
Yeah.
But anyway, he was telling me one night they got stuck in Biceville, and it was dark, couldn't see nothing. There wasn't no lights back then. This was back in the early 20s, But anyway, he said he just let the old bridles down on the horse, and he just walked in the driveway all the way to Briceville because they couldn't see, you know. But
Yeah.
anyway, my dad told me a lot of stories about like this, you know. But anyway,
Well,
I like them old stories, you know, still yet.
so do we, my friend.
Yeah. You all have a good day. I like your program now. And
Joe, thank you very much. I appreciate you calling and sharing that with us.
okay, buddy. I've got a lot more. I just can't bring them up right now. But
Well,
anyway.
when you think of them, you call me.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too, bud. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Joey, thank you, bud. Thank you much.
Sure.
I wrote his number down for you if you want to call him and get some of those ghost stories.
I'll take them.
Okay. Until next time, have a great day. You got anything for sale you want to advertise? Any homes you got available that you're working on?
Got just about all of them sold, thankfully. So I do love those old historic houses, though. So if you've got one you want to sell, let me know.
There you go. All right. How folks can just find you on Facebook? What's your number that you use for your real estate?
We all come straight to ourselves now. So 865-773-8259.
So if somebody wants to buy or sell a home or needs something, real estate wise, they can call you 773-8259.
Yeah.
Or ghost stories.
Or ghost, either one.
Yeah, either one.
Or both.
that would be even great. Sell you a haunted house. How about that? Joy Smith's been our guest today on Ask Your Neighbor, folks. Again, thank you very much for coming.
Sure
Look
thing.
forward to it next time.
Thank you for listening to AM 1380 WYSH and Ask Your Neighbor. Make sure you tune in at 10 a.m.
I've been held by the Savior. I felt fire from above. Well, I've been down to the river, and I ain't the same. A prodigal's a return. and gentlemen, have you enjoyed Gold City tonight?
When I go, don't cry for me. In my Father's arms I'll be. The wounds this world left on my soul will all be healed and I'll be whole. The sun and moon will be replaced with the light of Jesus' face. And I will not be ashamed, for my Savior knows my name. It don't matter where you bury me, 'cause I'll be home and I'll be free. No, it don't matter where I lay, all my tears be washed away. Temporary riches lie. Come and eat from heaven's store. Come and drink and thirst no more. So weep not for me, my friend, when my time below is end. For my soul belongs to Him who will raise the dead again. It don't matter where you bury me, it don't matter where I lay, all my tears be washed away. Don't matter where you bury me, 'cause I'll be home and I'll be free. No, it don't matter where I lay, all my tears be washed away. All my tears be washed away. All my tears be washed away.
Not a word was heard at the tomb that day. Just the soldiers' feet as they guarded the grave. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days had passed. Could it be that Jesus had breathed his last?
Could it be that his father had forsaken him, turned his back on his own son, despising our sin? All hell seemed to whisper, just forget him because he's dead. But the father looked down on his son and he said, arise, my love, arise, my love. The grave no longer has a hold on you. No more death sting, no more suffering. Arise, arise. shackles. Well, Justine has been defeated.